Have you felt lonely, left out, less than? Have you ever wanted to blend in with the wallpaper so that you were not noticed? Do you know how to connect with other people who fill your heart rather than drain your soul? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are definitely going to relate with Cheri Strange, who turned that loneliness into helping over 700,000 women redefine their worth.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
With me today, I have Cheri Strange. She is a published author, national speaker, visionary of She Yearns Ministries, and she is also the mom of 8 children. Welcome, Cheri.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
I love your name. It's interesting that you spell it as Sherry, but it is pronounced Cherry. And how did that happen?
I don't really know. My parents originally named me Cheri Javon,
Okay.
and they're from Oklahoma. I have no idea what they were thinking, but they ended up calling me Cherry all of my life.
Oh, well, that's interesting. You are the mom of 8 children. So give us a little background on that. Are they all homemade children or adopted children
No,
or?
we're a
Okay.
mix.
All right. Well,
We're a
tell us a little
mixture.
about that.
When I was 19, I was a history major. And so one of the days of class, our professor told us about the orphan crisis that was happening in China and about the one child policy and what was happening to most of the girls that were not wanted. And so I was walking around campus with a young man. And I told him, I said, hey, when I get married, I want to do something about that. And he was like, okay, but 15 years later, we did.
Oh, my
So
word.
yeah, so we had a couple of biological kids, but we decided nothing else could happen until I finished my dissertation, getting the PhD. And so I did that. And then we decided it was time. So we went to China and got a newborn infant. And while we were there, we were with some other families from the US who were getting special needs children. And some of their special needs were so minor, we would never think of it that way. So a couple of years later, we signed up and got a little 8-year-old girl, almost 9. And she had a heart murmur, which we thought we could manage. My husband is a physician, so we felt like we could manage that with the other 3. But when we got her home, she had a lot of deficits just from the experiences she had had and the experiences she had not had. And so she's got some pretty serious special needs to this day. But then we, for whatever reason, decided that we thought we ought to do it again. But the China program had kind of shut down. And so we couldn't go. So we went to Ethiopia with our adoption agency, and then their infant program shut down because we were just going to do one. But my social worker said, Cheri, I think you would be so good with a sibling set. And at that point in my life, I was just buried. There's no more bandwidth. And I just said, no, I already have a sibling set. I have 4 at home. And she said, I just think you should, be willing to explore that option. And so sure enough, that's what we did. And those kids have been amazing. So we adopted a sibling set of 4 from Ethiopia. And I think the boys, they're twins. They were 4 at the time. And the oldest girl was 9. And we've had them about 11 years.
I can't begin to imagine the challenges, but you sound like the type of person that you met each challenge.
you don't really have much of a choice. You can ignore it. You can bring in a nanny or something like that. But yeah, that just not wasn't our style.
Now, you had to have a degree in educational psychology. Have you used that at all in raising your children? And did you have time to do your education as well as teaching your children?
Think it's kind of holistic. Most of my degree was on learning theory and how a person comes to know information and put those ideas together and think through things. And so that was really helpful, especially with the special needs daughter, because she did not know how to process anything. And she didn't speak English. So I would say that was a huge challenge. So when we thought about adopting four more who were just normal, no issues whatsoever, and they just couldn't speak English, I was like, piece of cake. Even though there's four of them, it's not going to be anything compared to what I've already been through.
Right.
And it wasn't. They were delightful. They were absolutely, we laughed a lot. And I always say, you should live with someone who does not speak English, at least for a while. It's just really good experience.
Experience or teaching tool?
It probably was both. I mean, I love to teach. I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was a little bitty. So it's probably just a natural outpouring of my own giftings and personality. But yeah, you have, part of when you bring in orphans into a family, they don't know how to do family. They don't know things. A
Right,
lot of things
right.
that my kids that you have to always be mindful of what they don't know. So if you are not patient and a good teacher of that, it's not going to go as well. So
Now,
I do think it's been very, very beneficial. I've used it at home. I've taught at a couple of different universities. I taught at Baylor. I taught at another university close to where my husband was working, and I really enjoyed those experiences. So, but bringing it home has and using it here has probably been the most gratifying.
yeah, what were the ages of the other children that you adopted? Because you said some came with some baggage.
Right. So my oldest biological daughter was, I think, 8. I think she was turning 8 on the airplane over. And then my next daughter was 5, I think. They're about 2.5 years apart, somewhere 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And then the baby that we got was just at a year old, but they had not done anything with her. So I didn't want to miss anything, as a mom.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
know by a year you miss so much. But when we got her, she couldn't even sit up. She
Oh my word, you're
I
kidding.
didn't miss anything. No. And in
Huh?
fact, at 2, so she was not delayed in any way, with the disability. She was just delayed developmentally because no one had done anything
Aw.
with her. So I didn't miss anything. And she's been a joy.
Isn't that interesting? And did she relate to you like immediately? Like obviously you shed love on her all over the place. Did
Yeah, people ask me things like that. They'll say, "Did you just love them the first moment you saw them?" And I think it's easier with an infant because that just feels normal. I mean, it's
mm-hmm.
really a lot of give on the parent part when you have an infant. So I think hers was the easiest adjustment in terms of parent-child relationship. But the other kids, it just always felt like the neighbor kids who never went home for
Oh
a
my
long
goodness.
time because they don't know you and you don't know
Yeah,
them and you don't
yeah.
speak the same language, you don't eat the same food, you don't smell the same, you don't do anything the same. And so there is a period where you just don't seem to gel that well, and you have to forge that path, and you have to really uh, give a lot to older kids. And so, but you know what? It works, and there's no handbook on this. You
No
know,
kidding. Yeah.
you you just have to, buckle down and really be discerning about what to do. And so I do think the preparation that my husband is a specialist, but he's also a generalist. He has 2 medical degrees. And so I think that helped us so much on the medical side.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have a PhD in education and learning. And so I think the combination of that, we made a good team.
Do any of the kids want to follow in your footsteps? And
One of my daughter who we adopted first, that's the was the infant. She will be a senior next year, and so she's already thinking about what she wants to do. And she's wanted to be a teacher for a long time, but she's also pulled by her dad, and he wants her to be a nurse.
mm,
so so she doesn't know yet, but she's got the tendencies of nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, more than I do. She's a very good
Interesting.
nurturer. So I hope that she uses those skills to do that. You know, my other daughters who've graduated, and they're all in medical. One's in medical school, one's going to PA school, one's in nursing school. I will say this, that one of my daughters, the one that's going to go to PA school, she's writing a book right now, a fiction book. And my other daughter, that was the first adopted one, she's also writing a book. So I have had my influence. It's
No
just not.
kidding. That's oh, I'm glad that you shared that. That's awesome. Now, with all these kids around you, I want to talk to you now about your loneliness because you are busy, you're educated, and yet was a time in your life when you felt extremely lonely. Was that prior, like in high school, or tell us about that, how it started and why do you think?
I've always been a very shy person. I'm pretty small, and when I was young, I was the youngest, and there was a pretty big gap between my only sister and I. And so I found myself alone a lot of the time. As your family goes through things, I just was very isolated, and I didn't talk about it to anyone. So through high school, I just found myself more in the corner. I mean, I was a cheerleader, but at the same time,
Hmm,
that does not demonstrate your emotional health. You
good
can put
point.
on a face. And I think that's what many people do. I don't think there's anything, unique about me at all. But I think it goes way, way back to the very beginning. But I carried all that baggage to college, and just kind of continued the process at that time. But I also think that I had some understandings that just weren't true, and I didn't know they weren't true, and that had to do with how I viewed myself, and how others viewed me. But I also had some misgivings about uh, God. So I just really didn't get it at all. And so when I got married, I married someone from my university, and he was Mr. Everything. He could walk down the street and get a $200 reward, just for, oh, look how good he walks down the street. And so he was top student there. He didn't even graduate from high school. He just went straight to college, was the top student at college, was the top medical student. I mean, he's just super, super brilliant. And when we got married, it was more like, well, what do you see in her?
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
that's the kind of attitude I got. And back in the day, I wouldn't say it's like this now because I'm not there, but back in the day, uh, to be in medical school, you were somebody, and to be a doctor,
Right,
they
right.
just kind of pour into you that you are kind of a god figure, and everybody else should kind of follow whatever you say. And that's who I was married to. And so when everyone is telling you that, well, you start to believe it and act on it. And that did not go over well at home. But yet my tendencies were to just to cave, and then it wasn't, he's a wonderful man, and he has not stayed in that same place. We all come from places that we're glad we're not there anymore,
Hmm.
and that one is his perspective, this one is mine. I just found myself completely ignored. I mean, we would literally be in conversations, and I would not even be spoken to. I would not even be addressed, and this went on for years. We were probably married about 10 years. And so it just, not that those things were happening to me before, but when we went to medical school and started that journey, it just completely multiplied. It caused me to get to a place where I didn't know what else to do. What I mean, because what do you say? What can you say to someone? Because it seems the problem is you.
Right.
And so you don't talk about it. You just you just hurt on the inside. And finally I decided, you know what? Well, I don't know what to do, but I could just be an average girl, you know. I could just be an average Christian girl, and nobody can take that away from me. So I kind of made some adjustments and just decided, you know what? Maybe I can't compete with that, and maybe I can't do X, but I can be average, and that will be okay. And so those are just some coping things that I did. I'm not saying they were the right thing to do. It's just where I found myself. because I didn't know where else to go.
Now, you mentioned at one point that you are going to show the audience how to handle the naysayers and the finger pointers. How did you handle it?
First started moving in a healthier direction. I think my main problem was that I didn't understand that the way I perceived people and the way they perceived me really didn't have any weight on who I actually was as a person. I don't think you know that when you're young. Some people are just blessed with confidence and security. I was not, and so I had to find it, and I didn't find it till probably my 30s. And I'm so glad. I'm so thankful for the journey because now what I'm finding is I am not the only one. I mean, half the population right now, we are the loneliest population on record.
Wow.
And so and a majority of people, and this is a secular study. This is not something that's on a fringe website or something. But most people feel as if they've been left out.
Really?
If not some of the time, all of the time. But the numbers are just staggering. And so even the CDC is on board with this. It says loneliness is a real problem. It's on the same level for your health as substance abuse and diabetes. And so if they're thinking that this is a problem, I'm clearly not the only
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I have found is there's this theory that, and I think Facebook actually uses it. That's why we only see like 150 people on our on our scrolling. There's this theory that you can only handle so many relationships. And so if you think of it like a target, like you're aiming at a target, the bullseye are your inner core people. Okay. And you can
Right.
fit from 1 to 5 people in there, and that is it. That's all you have room for. Okay. And then you spread
Hmm.
out and you put about 15 people in the next one. And those are the people that you can tell your dirt to. Okay. But no more than 15. And that includes family members. Okay. But then you scoot out to the next realm, and that's about 50 people or so. And those are your work friends, your acquaintances, people that you might see socially, but you know, you don't know them well enough to ask them to go pick up your cousin at the airport.
Right.
I mean, you don't, you're not you're not on that level. And then there's everybody else outside of there. And so what I have found is that I try to put people in the wrong circle who never
Oh,
belonged there. And so I might bring someone in way too close that really had no business being there. And so that has really helped me. I mean, I understand it's a theory. It doesn't have to work every time. I mean, what am I supposed to do? There's 10 people
hmm.
in my immediate family. Who's not going to be in the inner circle? That's not going to work.
Right, right.
So my inner circle and my next level probably blend because I just have so many people who are intimate with me just by the nature of our family structure. And so, but what I have found is you get outside of that, and I tend to bring people in too close, and that's where problems start. So, or I keep the wrong people out that I should have brought in close. And so it's really made me more discerning about the relationships that I engage in. I don't just happen upon friendships. If our kids are the same age, that's fine, or we're in the same, athletic club or whatever, you're traveling together a lot, whatever you're doing, that doesn't make them a close friend, necessarily. And I just have to be a lot more judicious about how I choose who I am in a circle with and who I bring in because I think we get our feelings hurt for being left out or someone saying something bad about us when they're really not a close friend. And we don't always realize that. We take it so personally and we are hurt by it, where we need to take a really good look at who we've brought in close and decide, is that reasonable or not? And I think that's been really helpful for me.
Well, my wheels are spinning. As you are talking, I am thinking about relationships, of course.
Hmm.
And if I'm relating, everybody's going to relate to what you are saying. That's obvious. You explained it so well. I never really thought about it the way you've just explained it. So I thank you for that. We are going to take a 30-second break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your book because this
Okay.
is this is the guide that is going to help people answer all these questions that you have already raised, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll be right back.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
It has been so exciting to listen today to what Cheri Strange is saying because everything she is talking about in relationship, I am relating to. And if I'm relating, I think that our audience is relating. So I really thank you, Cheri, what you have shared. And I know you've got a lot more to say, especially about your book. And I love the title, Can You See Me Now? Tell us about that and how we can address these issues that you have brought up. And I believe you're answering those in the book. Is that correct?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
So the book is Can You See Me Now? Good News for the Lonely, Left Out, and Less Than. Because I think that just sums up most of us.
Mm,
We felt that way. In fact,
right.
when I meet women and they see the book or they ask me what the title is, I can see on their face they understand.
Huh.
And it could even be from a very outgoing, sort of sanguine type person. These are common experiences that we have. We just didn't know how universal they were. And currently, the timing of this message is so perfect because it is such a need. And my hope is that the book it's set up in doable chunks. It's a 75-day journey so that a busy woman can get through it, and make progress and kind of note her progress along the way. You don't have to sit down and read 14 chapters,
Let me just interrupt you for a second. Is this
Mhm.
also a memoir or is this strictly
No,
okay.
it's
Okay.
not a memoir. So what I try to do is I write for a Bible app called YouVersion. It's a worldwide app with a gazillion people on it, and they had me write what you would call a devotional, and that's just an encouraging message from
Mm-hmm.
something that might come from the Bible. And so I've been doing that for about 7 years, and I've really liked the style because it's short with sort of an action point, and I can write about anything because I'm an educator. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. And so I thought the process worked so well that to make a process like this where you really want to change, you would really like to have some personal transformation, that would work for that because you're just moving one time you can pick up the book and there's something actionable in life. So I set up the first part to kind of walk through my personal story because the details will be different, but it relates because so many of us understand what it feels like to
Mm-hmm.
be left out or not included. And it's not really just that it happens occasionally. We begin to notice that this is happening a lot. And then some of us feel like, well, it must be us. So what does a person do when they feel like they're not adequate or they're not included or someone is hateful to them? They shrink back. And so that's what I began to do. And um, as I mentioned before, some things in my life just amplified the situation until I was living the American dream. Honestly, I was living the American dream. I'm married to a physician. We have everything we could ever want. I have a couple of beautiful kids and a dog, and I wanted out. Not
Hmm.
physically, not
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
physically, but I was so desperate to not be. I wanted just to be considered a person, a regular person, and I wanted out and I didn't know what else to do. And so, I grew up in the church but I had this understanding of God. There's this song, Jesus loves little children, all the children of the world. I just felt like God was this huge, you know, being in the heavens who just kind of looked down and he had to love me because I was his
Hmm.
child. It was his creation. And so but it wasn't personal. You know,
Good
it was
point.
just
I see
it was
that.
just, very broad and very gentle. So when I prayed, that's kind of how I prayed,
Mm-hmm.
as this being just so far away that he wasn't interested in me, not me in my frailty, and hanging on the wallpaper. And so it's hard to believe that God really cares about you as a person and will answer your prayer and will listen to you and has a plan for your life when you see God as a being that's not really connected to you. And so that's where I was. But even though I believed that, and that's what I saw, in my mind, I didn't know what else to do. So I came to sort of a critical mass point where I just felt like the problem was me, and I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't make any progress or get out. And I just prayed. I just Lord, I don't even know what the problem is, but I don't know what to do. My husband was also, not only was he, the star student and the brilliant doctor, he was also a preacher. So he had like a Bible degree. So I mean, I don't have anything. I am just wallowing in my own nothingness. And so I can't talk to anybody about it. So I just prayed, honestly. I just prayed and didn't know what to do. But I thought, okay, well, if I'm just out to be the average person, if I'm just going to try to be average, because nobody can take that away from me, what's an average Christian girl doing? Because that's kind of the mold I'm trying to get into, is what does a good Christian girl do? And all the good Christian girls I knew went to Bible study. So
Hmm.
I signed up for one after work. So there were about 5 of us in the library at some church, and it's the day when they started doing video Bible studies. And so there was this TV on a cart, and everybody's just kind of staring at this woman. And there was something about it. Number one, that person knew a God that I didn't know.
Mm.
And I was mesmerized. I mean, the first moment, and I thought, how do you even know if that's real? You know? And so I thought, well, I haven't even read the Bible. I've read part of it, but I don't even know what it all says. So I took myself to a bookstore back when we had those, and I bought something that was called like a 1-year Bible, and where you could read through the whole thing in 15 minutes a day, starting and stopping places. And I thought, you know what? This is what I need. Something to get me on a schedule. And I mean, how do I say that I believe something if I don't even actually know what it says? So that was sort of that part. And I tried to do that for about 9 years. So
Oh my
I was
goodness.
I was never successful at getting all the way through it on the right days at the right time. But you know what? It was a failing forward, because what it showed me was I was so wrong. I was dead wrong
Hmm.
about who God was and how he saw people. And I didn't know it because I hadn't read it. And so even though I'd been in church all my life, I didn't internalize those things as personal. Like, he would be good to you, but not necessarily to me,
Hmm.
because I'm the girl stuck in the corner. And through that process, I began to understand that there were some things in my life that just weren't true, that I had taken upon myself and believed that just weren't true. And I think that was probably a tipping point for me in moving forward and recognizing. And it took quite a while. And that's the importance of the book. The book is not just going to be a story about my journey. It's just like 3 chapters in the book. But
Oh
what the
my
book
goodness.
does, it saves you so much time and so much energy and so many failures that I experienced along the journey, because there's things that I learned. And what I found was, not only does God care about you as a person and know you intimately as an individual, but the Bible talks about things like this. And now it's not going to say, no, this is how you get along with your friends. These are the ones you need to bring in close, and these are the ones you need to keep out. Nothing like that. But there is a real practical book in the Bible called James, and James is very practical. And what I did was I just wrote down all of the things that I thought what I had gone through, and what a person who wanted to not stay in the same emotional state, even though their circumstances don't change. My circumstances did not change. I did. And so
Good
I wanted to
point.
see what do you do? What do you do if you want out of your life but you can't go anywhere? What you're saying is, I want to be different. I don't know how to do that, and I don't know what to do tomorrow, but I want to be different. And how do I get there? So really, it's a hope-filled book that takes you one step at a time. And at the back of it, I included a personal plan. I call it a personal plan for becoming invincible. And it's not like, you're physically invincible, but spiritually and emotionally, you can learn some things that make you invincible, because I was not. So anyway, the plan does that. So you don't have to do it with the day of the reading. It's all marked and laid out for you. So I would just go along and add like a, not an activity necessarily, but something to draw out the thoughts. Because what you're saying earlier was your mind is churning. You're already thinking about, and you're internalizing for your own personal walk. And that's what it does. So as I'm talking about something, or I'm making I'm giving a story or an illustration about something, that's what we do.
Hmm.
We move it personal. We say, how does this apply to me? What's in it for me? And so I've tried to make that available and usable in the moment, so that you don't have to wait and you don't have to keep all those ideas inside. You can jot something down, and I can help move you to the next place.
What I think you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that it really doesn't matter what type of personality we are. This is
Mhm.
a guide for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. We all have things that we need to address. Am I correct in that?
Yes, and it doesn't matter how old you are or what your experiences have been in life, because what we're learning is that these issues are universal. There's not an age bracket that doesn't, I don't want to say suffer from it, but experience it. One thing that I have noted, I purposefully wrote it in easy chunks so you could read a page or two and be done for the day. And what I have been told over and over again is, Cheri, I couldn't put it down. And that's not really a testimony to I'm such a good writer or anything like that.
Hmm.
What it communicates is this is a felt need. The
Oh,
person
good
reading the
point.
book
Hmm.
is so in tune with the issue, she can't wait to find out more and what to do about it, because that's this book is to move you from point A to point B without all the missteps and mistakes and slowdowns that I had to do. It's just sort of supercharging your path forward, because there is a path forward. We just don't know what it is or how to get there. And so that's what this is for. So, and then other women have said, and a lot of times they'll come up to me, they'll say, I'm reading your book and I'm really relating to it. And what they're you can see their eyes are just kind of in their brain, and they're going over some things. They don't really know what to say to me about it, but I know what they're thinking. They're thinking about it. They're thinking about, they need it, and they know they're applying it, and they're working through the process, but they're not there yet. Well, of course they're not. It's transformation. Real transformation takes time. What I'm providing is a pathway to get you from point A to point B, however long it takes you. I'm hopeful that it won't take you as long as it took me, but that you'll get there.
Now, on the top side of the show, I mentioned that you have helped over 700,000 women redefine their worth. Is that through your book, through your website? And by the way, I absolutely loved your book trailer, and I really want people to watch the trailer because I think that that really addresses, in a nutshell, everything that you want to say, and they're going to want to buy the book or listen to that, correct?
I think so. I think it's a good introduction. It's about a minute and a half or so.
Right.
So it's real short, but it's pointed. It's
Yes.
it's very effective. I write, like I said, I write for the Bible app. I have hundreds of thousands of people on YouVersion who subscribe to the things that I write on there. And then I've speaking events, and it's not the first book I've written. So I've been in this arena since about 2009.
Hmm.
So that's been a road filled with lots of women who want to move from A to point B.
Now you mentioned U version a couple times. Is that the
Hmm.
letter U or YOU? And is that an
Oh,
app?
yes. Yeah, you can. It's actually Bible.com. And Bible.com is a website that has a sister app. So instead of it being, Bible app, it is U version, as in YOU version. And it has an icon that says it's like a little brown Bible, and it says Holy Bible on it. It's really
Okay.
easy to, and it's
Okay.
free. There's so many resources. Doesn't matter what language you speak, or what you want to learn
Hmm.
about.
Hmm.
So it's a wonderful, wonderful free resource.
Now, in conclusion, what would you like to say to the audience?
What I would like them to know is that there's hope. If you have felt left out and as if you've been passed over, there is hope. And what I want for that person is for them to know that not to quit. Don't quit. If you're at a place where, like I was, where you just want out of your life, but you don't really want to go anywhere, you just want out of that emotional state, you want to be a real person, then, you might try praying. You might try just seeking God, because he will be
Mm-hmm.
there. So don't stop seeking that. Ask ask God to fill that emptiness, because he knows how to do it better than anyone else. That's what I've found to be really, really, really resourceful for people, because your spouse can't do it. Your friend can't do it. Your job's not going to do it. Your kids are not going to do it. There's a lot of things that we try that do comfort, but they don't fill our inner being to where that we feel like we are living a fulfilled, satisfied life. And that's a hole that only God can fill in you. So I would encourage you to seek that. But you also need to make room to be visible, because when you walk through this process, you go from feeling invisible to knowing you are visible, and to living as if you're visible. But there's some things that are gonna have to go. You got to make room to become visible. And that's going to differ for each person, but I go through several of those. There's a whole chapter on that, of different caveats to that. And that I think we need to be willing to fail forward. None of us want to
Mm-hmm.
fail.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us fail easier than others and get over it. I am not one of those people. I take it really hard if I can't do something, or I set a goal and I didn't meet it. And I think that that's common to a lot of women. And my encouragement is that failing forward is the way to go. So many people who have made it big, like Dyson, other inventors, even, especially people who are creatives, they have to try over and over again. And there's tons of failure in that creative process. And so if we approach our life the same way, if we try something and it didn't work, you learned something from it, and take
Right.
that and move to the next step. Okay. And try again, or to change it a little bit. But my encouragement is, fail, you're going to do, but failing forward is a choice. And so I would encourage you to fail forward, find out more about the topic, learn what you can, and allow yourself to change.
Well, you have definitely challenged each of us. And for that, I really thank you and appreciate it. And I thank you for being on Never, Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you so much, Carol. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.